I think the depression one is just mind-boggling. I mean, look, again, I want to acknowledge that there are people, as I've said derogatory things about SSRIs. Many people have found them to be useful in your life. But acknowledge then that if the underlying research doesn't say that that is the singular effect, then we should be talking about everything. Everything, right? So it's like, okay, maybe SSRIs. Okay, what about ketamine treatments, which people are using now? People are using MDMA in a controlled setting. What about exercise? What about weight? I mean, there's fish oil. Like you can go down a million. Then it gets stacked amongst a million different things. But there ain't 13.5 billion in what I just listed.
That's it. And the politicization, I think the monologue you just gave is very important and speaks to a very deep problem. And the politicization problem is really astounding as well. Because I think about some of the people who have questioned the complete reliance on SSRIs and who have done it in a responsible way. So I think about Marianne Williamson, who was smeared as like a kook and anti-science and all of this stuff for raising legitimate questions about our over-reliance on these drugs. I think about Johan Hari, who wrote an entire book called Lost Connections, Uncovering the Real Causes of Depression, that questioned the over-reliance on SSRIs. And this is someone who had been prescribed one too, by the way, and was sparked in his research based on the fact that it seemed like it worked for a little while and then it didn't. And it was never a real solution to the sort of underlying problems that he was dealing with. These people were really smeared and really villainized for even raising the questions. And that's a big barrier as well to scientific inquiry. And then you dig one layer deeper and you say, oh, which sorts of treatments are extremely profitable and which things are not so profitable? You know, just general healthy living, encouraging, stripping away the government subsidies for corn and sugar and making those sorts of junk foods cheap, making our cities so that people don't have to walk. Those sorts of general lifestyle changes, well, there's no big payoff for anyone on the other end of those. So of course they're not pushed. It's a really, really deep problem. And I would suggest that one of the issues with the federal bureaucracy is that you have this revolving door between industry. You have these really cozy relationships. So even if they're on the government side of the ledger right now, they're just like with our members of Congress, there's the expectation that eventually they may cross into the industry side and they want to maintain those relationships.
And that Alzheimer's one really bugged me too. Think about how many people who saw their parents and donated money. And the study is bullshit. I mean, from what we can tell, 14 years of billions of dollars which are down the tubes. That's an incredible amount of damage. And so we're like, wait, hold on a second. We need to build in processes to make sure that we're not funneling money towards bullshit research. There is no such capacity. And many of the people who rely on these dollars, as we found out under Lab Leak, they're too afraid to say anything because they need the money. And the money itself comes from all these institutions. There's an entire funding bureaucracy. So this is not anti-science. I have great respect for science.
It's pro-science.
Yeah, whenever money gets involved, that I understand. And then when you include corruption, I'm like, that I really understand. Yeah. And this shows all the hallmarks. And the consequences are grave. I mean, record amounts of people on SSRIs, depression spiked during the pandemic. People are shilling out SSRIs and Adderall and all kinds of stuff in these online startups where you don't even have to visit a doctor. I mean, listen, I just think it's a very serious thing. You screw with your brain chemistry, that's not a joke. And yet they dole these things out like they're candy based on research, which was not true. Sure, it works, but a lot of other stuff works. So then the question is, why is that not getting funded, supported, and more? And I want to thank the internet because 10 years ago, there ain't no monologue like, I mean, I haven't seen this covered on cable news once. Yeah. This affects 1 in 8 Americans who've been on these drugs.
Then you compare on the other side of basically a ban on research on any kind of psychedelic treatment, which the early studies that have recently come out seem to show have an even more profound impact on depression. And, it's...
I saw some 90-some% people. It was like 5 years out after psilocybin, which is insane.
Very encouraging results. Very encouraging results for veterans dealing with PTSD. Very encouraging results for all sorts of depression, anxiety. So, but yeah, that research was blocked for years and years and years. Meanwhile, we went down this path that was ultimately turns out to have been based on faulty research, it looks like.
100%.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.